Pucked in front. Talks to Caulfield. Fires. Scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.
3, 2, 1, 0.
What is up, gang? Welcome back to the Halley Tiki Room. I am Devin from Recliner Sports. We are back again, Game 4 of the regular season. Montreal Canadiens, probably with their worst performance of the season, I would say. They lose 6-3 to the Pittsburgh Penguins. The reason I say it is probably their worst performance of the season is because this is a team that they should beat. The game against Toronto to open the season, the 1-0 win, was a victory. They probably were not the best team on the ice in that game. But again, Toronto is a team that they probably would not be expected to beat on a regular basis. I think the same could be said for Boston. You know, they didn't have a great performance in Boston, but they played well and lost to a better team. Ottawa, they beat a team they should beat. I think they beat a team that they're better than. They beat a team that they're capable of beating. They're a team that they need to beat if they want to be a contending team for the playoffs, which they may or may not actually be. But Ottawa is a team that they are in direct competition with. It's a team that they need to be able to play with and they need to compete with. Pittsburgh is a team they should beat. Pittsburgh is a team that they are better than. Pittsburgh is a team that they should be able to handle, I won't say easily, but on most nights, this is a game that they need to win, and the reality is they just didn't show up. Right from the beginning of the game, they were not ready to play. They weren't in the game, and it showed. And it didn't take very long for them to get behind. It didn't take very long for it to be very clear that Pittsburgh was the team that came to play, and that the Canadiens were not there to play. It didn't take long. It was very, very obvious. It was very evident, and it was really, really clear, really, really quickly. At least to me. It took them more than half a period to get their first shot on goal. I think Pittsburgh was up 7 or 8-0 on shots on goal before Montreal even got a shot on net. They were scrambling all around in their own end. They just were not the team that they were 2 nights earlier in Ottawa, and it certainly showed. And a veteran team like Pittsburgh, despite the fact that they're not really that great anymore, they are going to take advantage of that. So let's have a look for a minute here at the box score. Like I said, 6-3 final in favor of the Penguins. The game the scoring opened with Lars Eller, former Montreal Canadien, assisted by Jesse Puljujärvi and Pettersson at 6:54 of the first period. It was a long breakout pass. I believe it was Savard and Suzuki that were both slow getting back, Savard in particular. It ended up being a 2-on-1 with Puljujärvi and Eller against Lane Hudson. Lane Hudson was beaten on the 2-on-1, and the goal was scored by Eller on a wrist shot that beat Samuel Montembeault. Later in the first period at 16:49, we have Rickard Rakell from Evgeny Malkin and Bunting. Hudson maybe struggled a little bit defensively on this play. He was in a battle in the corner with Bunting. Couple battles, actually. Lost the puck in the corner. The puck eventually gets to Malkin below the goal line. He makes a really, really quick pass in front of the net to Rickard Rakell, and Rickard Rakell wastes absolutely no time putting it past Montembeault. Montembeault had no chance. The puck was past him before he even knew what happened. The puck came from behind him, and then the puck was behind him in the net from Rakell right away. The second half of the first period, the Canadiens showed a little bit of life, and late in the period they were able to reduce the lead to 1 on a goal by Caden Gooley, assists from Michael Matheson and Nick Suzuki. Suzuki has the puck along the end boards. They're going. He and Matheson are kind of playing catch a little bit. The pass eventually goes back again to Matheson. Matheson passes cross ice to Caden Gooley, who fires a nice shot past Tristan Jarry. Jarry appeared to be lost a little bit on the play. That was the result, I believe, of a screen from Uri Slavkovsky, who did a really good job getting in front of the net on the play. And as a result, that split second when the pass went across from Matheson over to Gooley just was the time when Slavkovsky happened to be skating in front of the net. And as a result, Jarry lost the puck, and he was completely out of position, and essentially Gooley had a completely open net and scored the goal. Shots in the first period were in favor of the Pittsburgh Penguins, as I said, 11-6. It was a long time before Montreal even was able to get a shot on goal. They were nearly midway through the period before that was even. They just weren't in the game for that first half of the first period, and even in the second half of the first period, they didn't look all that great. Hello, Jeevan. What's going on? How are you? Second period, Canadians come out looking a lot better. They're playing quite well. They score a goal 2 minutes and 51 seconds into the period. Good hustle by Cole Caulfield and a really, really nice pass from Nick Suzuki to Uri Slavkovsky. Slavkovsky just needed to tap the puck into the empty net. Caulfield did a lot of nice work behind the net, as did Slavkovsky. The puck, like I said, ended up with Nick Suzuki sort of at the high slot, and he kind of semi-faked a shot and just kind of put a really, really nice pass in onto the stick of Slavkovsky, who had to do nothing but just finish the play and put the puck in the net. Power play goal. Again, 4 games, 4 power play goals for Montreal. That is a good sign. The Canadiens scored another goal in the second period to tie it up at 14-26. Emil Heineman with the second of his career. Really good work by him in his own end. He creates a turnover in the defensive zone. He then takes the puck the length of the ice. He ends up being on a 2-on-1 with Oliver Kapanen. The defender takes the pass away, and Heineman shoots the puck high glove side on Jarry. Really nice shot, quick shot. Jarry didn't even get a piece of it, and it was a really nice goal. Unfortunately, after they tied the game, they kind of let off the gas a little bit, and about 2 minutes later, Eller with his second goal of the game. Both Justin Barron and Mike Matheson are caught behind the play. I don't know if that's actually right. I think it was actually... Anyways, the defense were caught behind the play, and Uri Slavkovsky was sort of covering for the defenseman on the blue line and made the cardinal mistake. If you're covering for a defenseman, you don't want to pinch. He did. He pinched, and actually, you know what? That's a different goal. That's a different goal. So on this play, this is the goal that puts Pittsburgh back up 3-2, 16:23 of the second period. Eller is back on the play, covering for Matheson and Barron, both of whom got caught up behind the play. Slavkovsky ends up defending a 2-on-1, and Eller just goes around him. Slavkovsky's just no match for him, and he can't compete. And Eller ends up beating Samuel Montembeault, and they go up 3-2 late in the second period. Shots in the second period were 12-10 for Montreal, so a little bit better. 21-18 cumulative. Pittsburgh still ahead. Third period, 7:47 of the third period. Pittsburgh comes out, scores another goal. This time it's Kevin Hayes. I want to call it a soft clearing pass by David Savard, but it was a tough play behind the net. He tried to clear the puck on the backhand, couldn't get it out. The puck is stopped at the blue line by Noel Acciari. Acciari fires a shot from the point. Montembeault makes the save but gives up a big rebound, and Hayes is there waiting and puts it in the net. And that's pretty much it. Later in the period, about 5 minutes later, 11:32, Christopher Letang from Malkin and Grzelcyk. This time, this is the play I was talking about earlier. I was getting confused. This is Hudson gets caught deep in the O-zone. He carried the puck in the O-zone. Again, the Canadiens at this point are sort of trying to put the pressure on to try and even up the game. Hudson goes deep with the puck. The puck gets turned over. Slavkovsky's covering at the blue line, and he makes the cardinal mistake, right? He's covering at the blue line for one of the defensemen, and instead of backing off and letting the play come to him, he tries to pinch, and as a result, Grzelcyk beats him at the blue line. He chips the puck off the boards. He goes in, feeds a nice pass to Malkin as he crosses the blue line, and then Malkin puts it back to Letang, who buries it right away. So at this point, they are up 5-3. The Canadiens are pretty much out of the game. They do put on a bit of a rush late in the game. They pull their goalie with about 4 minutes left in the game, a little less than 4 minutes left, and they probably play their best hockey of the night. They're on a 6-on-5. They maintain pressure in the Pittsburgh zone for about 2.5 minutes. Tons of pressure, tons of shots. Tristan Jarry holds down the fort and managed to keep the puck out of the net. They finally get a whistle, and the Canadiens take a timeout. They send the same guys out again. It's basically their power play plus Lane Hudson. And they get some more pressure as they come back from the stoppage. But unfortunately, one of the rebounds ends up on Evgeny Malkin's stick, and he ends up shooting it the entire length of the ice from his own hash marks and puts it into the empty net and seals the deal. 6-3, game over. Pittsburgh takes the win. So Montreal probably, like I said, it's a game that they ought to have won. They were the better team on paper, I think, going into the game. This is a team that they ought to beat. However, unfortunately, they just didn't show up. And this is something that sometimes happens with younger teams. They have a hard time showing up on a consistent basis, on a night in and night out basis. And when you don't show up against Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and Christopher Letang and, guys like that, you are going to pay the price. And that's exactly what happened tonight. Okay, so next we are going to go to our report card. I'm going to do the report card, and then we'll do the A-team after that, if that's okay with everybody. So here's our report card. Again, the report card basically is the way that I assess this team and whether or not I believe that the team had a good game or not. Wins and losses aren't always what you're looking for when you are a rebuilding team. Some nights it's about more than that. Some nights you're going to win games and not look very good, and some nights you're going to lose games and you're going to look great. And tonight was a night where they lost a game and they didn't look good. So again, score 3 goals or more. They managed to score 3 goals. The reason for that is 240 goals, kind of a magic number. If you can score 240 goals, I think you have a good chance of making the playoffs. Unfortunately, tonight they allowed 6, right? And the same applies. 240 goals against, and you probably have a good chance of making the playoffs. So divide that by 82, you're looking at approximately 3 goals for and 3 goals against per game. That should be your goal. That should be your target. Tonight they allowed 6, so they allowed twice as many as they should be targeting. Not a very good performance that way. Not a very good performance on the defensive side of things as far as keeping the puck out of the net is concerned. I guess we can take some positive in the sense that they did score 3 goals, but again, I don't think the performance as far as goals for and goals against was a very good one tonight. Special teams, I'm going to give them a check mark. They were 1 for 2, I think, on the power play. 1 for 1 on the power play. Let's check just to be sure. They were tonight on the power play. The Canadiens went 1 for 2. So the Canadiens were 1 for 2 on the power play, and they killed the only penalty kill or the only power play against. They managed to kill that. So, again, the special teams continues to look pretty good. It's been decent so far through the year. I think their power play is currently at 25%, which is a significant improvement on what they've been in the past. And hopefully they can keep that up. That's certainly been one of the positives to their performance so far this season. Consistent effort and compete. And this is the big one, right? This is the one that you want to see from a young team as they develop, as they get better, and as they become a contender. This is the box you want to see them checking off night in and night out. Do they show up every night consistently and put forth a strong effort every single night in and night out? And this is what you see from veteran teams, good teams, teams that are contending for the playoffs, teams that are contending for the Stanley Cup. They don't take nights off. They show up and they play every single night. And that's where I think this young team will continue to struggle as they rebuild. And this is sort of the biggest, like I said, this is the box you want to see them start checking off on a regular basis. And tonight, unfortunately, they don't check that box off. They didn't show up in the first period. Unfortunately, they just didn't look like they were into it to start the game. They got behind. They did manage to get back and take a lead at one point 3-2. But then again, they went to sleep again in the third period, and they just were outplayed in the third period and didn't have what it took, didn't have what it takes to come back and win the game. So I give them a big X. This is a big fail for me as far as the consistent effort and compete. I don't think they brought that at all tonight. In fact, I think this is the first game this year that they didn't do that. I think you might argue that they didn't do it in the Boston game. But certainly, if you argued that they didn't do it in the Boston game, I think it's even more clear tonight that they didn't. They brought it, I think, in the Toronto game, and I think they brought it in the Ottawa game. But tonight, the effort. Again, I never want to call into question somebody's effort level. Because I don't think it's a matter of these guys not trying. I just think it's an adaptation to playing NHL hockey, where there's a lot of factors at play when you're at this level of hockey that sometimes you need to be able to adjust to in order to bring your best game every single night. There's the travel, there's the the fact that you're sleeping in a different bed every night. There's the wear and tear of playing in the NHL. Sometimes you're playing on weekdays. You're coming from college where you're used to only playing on the weekends. And there's a lot of stuff at play that makes it difficult to bring that constant effort night in and night out. And like I said, unfortunately tonight they didn't do that. Discipline, I had no problem with the discipline tonight, as we mentioned earlier. Just the one power play against, just the one penalty. I'm trying to even think of what it was. I can't remember what it even was. It certainly wasn't anything that stood out to me as being bad discipline. What was the one power play against for Montreal? The one penalty that Montreal took tonight was the roughing by Yoel Armia. So Armia, right off the face-off after that goal, which again, poor timing. But again, I'm not prepared to say that I'm not prepared to give the entire team a failing grade for discipline on that. Like I said, the timing on that penalty was probably pretty bad, given that they had just scored the goal to tie it up, I believe. But yeah, discipline wasn't a problem for me tonight. And enjoyment is a bit of a difficult one to define. Do the boys look like they're having a good time out there? Are they having fun playing hockey? Like I said, I've said this before, and people who are on my you listen to my content on a regular basis will hear me say this, that, the rebuild takes place off the ice as much as it takes place on the ice. And the Canadiens are trying to make an effort to create an environment where the players want to play, they enjoy themselves, they get along with each other, there's a family there. We've heard Marty St. Louis talk about it. We've heard Kent Hughes talk about it. So do they look like they're having fun on the ice? And I think tonight, again, the reason why I think this is a hard one to judge is that, when you lose 6-3, you're not going to look like you're having fun on the ice. I think there were times when they looked pretty happy out there and they were having a good time. But again, I don't think this was an evening that they sort of. It didn't look like a happy family out there. It didn't look like things were flowing the way they like for it to flow. And I'm going to say that this was not a very enjoyable night for them, and that they could have done better in that category. So overall, we've got the 3 check marks and 3 X's. Again, the special teams, I think, despite the bad loss, the special teams, I think, were fine. The discipline was good. I also would like to say that I thought the refereeing was not that great tonight. There were at least 3 calls that there was an elbow in the head to Nick Suzuki deep in the Pittsburgh zone that kind of actually led to a goal by Pittsburgh. Not only did the referee not call the penalty, but Pittsburgh went to score a goal about 20 seconds later. Suzuki, took a shot in the face and kind of was looking at the referee, and maybe this is something he did wrong, but kind of caught him out of position, and Pittsburgh went down the other end. There was a situation where I think it was Josh Anderson was just like mugged behind the net, and the referees just turned the other cheek. I don't know, they just ignored it. I mean, there's no way they could have not seen it. They just decided that they weren't going to call it. There was another scenario where I can't remember who it was. We've become accustomed in the NHL now to this tripping penalty where, even if a player steps on an opponent's stick, that's in a perfectly normal and reasonable position. If you step on that player's stick and you fall down, that's going to be a tripping, and that's been called across the board in the NHL for a number of years now. But for whatever reason, I think it happened at least twice tonight. For whatever reason, that wasn't the case tonight. So again, I don't understand the refereeing in the NHL. I never have. I never will. I think they're terrible at their job. Some nights it doesn't really make a difference, and sometimes it's not as glaring as others. I wouldn't say tonight was one of the worst examples of it, but again, it's just the inconsistency of the refereeing and the sheer lack of understanding that NHL officials have for game management and how to properly manage a sporting event, let alone a hockey game. Just continues to baffle me. They're just completely wrong and completely off the mark. So much, considering that they're at the highest possible level. Like, these guys are being paid big money, and the NHL this is a bit. We're not playing, local sports here. This is the highest level of hockey you can play in the world, and for them to have referees that just are that clueless, that often, just it continues to baffle me. So. The final thing we're going to get into before we go to some questions from the chat. So if you're in the chat, guys, we're almost there. Get your questions ready. I don't know how many people are in here right now, but get your questions ready. We're getting ready. The last thing we're going to do before that is what we call the A team, and this is what we call at Recliner Sports. This is our version of the 3 stars. We don't do the 3 stars. We try to do something a little bit different. We do the A team. This is focused solely on the Montreal Canadiens, and these are the 4 guys for Montreal that we feel, or I feel, I guess, because I picked this team today, put in a real effort, and it's harder to do on a losing effort, obviously, than it is in a winning effort. There's, in a winning effort, there's more guys to choose from who've had good games. But tonight, there was a bit of a, difficulty in finding guys who, really showed up. But again, Mike Matheson, I think Matheson was the best player on the ice for Montreal. I think that Matheson has taken some unfair criticism in recent times from Montreal Canadiens fans, especially. He is night in and night out the workhorse on this team, right? And everybody says, well, why is he playing 25 or 26 minutes? Well, the reason he's playing those kind of minutes is because when Marty St. Louis looks down the bench, that's the guy he can count on in all situations. That's the guy who he knows he can put on the ice and that he's not going to cause any problems, right? Whether it's shorthanded, whether it's on the power play, whether you're up by a goal, whether you're down by a goal, Mike Matheson is the steady guy that he can put on the ice and he can trust on a night in and night out. Now, do I believe that Matheson should still be on power play 1? Maybe. So again, that's a wishy-washy answer, but the reality is I have no problem with him on the first power play, and I have no problem with Lane Hutson on the second power play. The power play is doing well, right? Would the power play potentially be better with Lane Hutson on it if he was on power play 1? I think probably, but again, I don't think we need to rush into that. And again, because the power play is working right now. Would we be more excited to see Hutson on that power play 1? Yeah, I see that. But the issue is that Matheson has been taking a lot of heat because everybody is just so desperate to see Lane Hutson get on power play 1. And so if Mike Matheson makes any type of error whatsoever on the power play, if he makes a bad pass, if he makes, a shot that some people consider to be, not the most opportune time to take a shot, if anything goes wrong on the power play, then all of a sudden everybody thinks that Mike Matheson's a bad defenseman, right? Meanwhile, he's killing penalties and doing a very good job at it. And meanwhile, he's playing, 18, 19, 20 minutes at 5-on-5 and being the best defenseman on the team at 5-on-5. So I guess the criticism of Matheson is unfair. At the end of the day, will Matheson probably end up, giving up that first power play spot to Lane Hutson? Yeah, that's probably going to happen someday, and it's probably going to happen someday soon. But for now, he's the most steady defenseman on the team. He's playing in all roles. And the benefit to him stepping down from PP1, if and when that happens, and again, I have no problem with that not happening, and I think that there's value in not rushing Hutson into that role. Hudson's having a lot of stuff dumped on him right now, and that certainly isn't, it's not something that they need to rush into. So Mike Matheson, I think, was the best player on the ice for Montreal tonight. He had a couple points. He looked good in all aspects of the game. Power play, he set up a goal on the power play. So I think he had a good game. Second member of the A team is Nick Suzuki. I think Nick Suzuki, the last two games, he's looked really good. I think he struggled a little bit in the first two games. I think that line looked better. I think Slavkovsky, for whatever reason, still looks like a quarter of a step slow to me. I'm not sure what it is. He's just not fully there just yet. I mean, he's still good, and I think he's still getting some production in, but he just doesn't look quite ready. But Suzuki, I think, had a good game tonight. He had a couple assists. And again, I think his game is just continuing to get better. And like I said, the last two games have been good for him. Lane Hutson arguably had probably his worst game of the season so far tonight. I don't think he was as apparent on the ice as he has been in the first three games. I thought he had a couple of situations where he struggled a little bit defensively. He got caught in the offensive zone on one instance that we mentioned earlier. That really wasn't his fault. I think he was trying to make a play, and he should be doing that. But Slavkovsky didn't do a great job of covering for him. So again, I don't know whether you can blame him for that. He did lose the battle in the corner there on the Bunting, with Bunting on the Raquel goal. He also got beat on another play where it was, what was it, the first goal or the second goal? We talked about it earlier. Stand by. It was the second goal. No, that's a lie. It was the first goal. Yeah, so he ended up being the defenseman on a 2-on-1 on the Eller goal, the first Eller goal, 2-on-1 with Puljujärvi. And, but despite all of that, he still was, really, really good. I mean, he created, probably, more than a half dozen scoring chances. His skating's incredible. His evasiveness is incredible. His ability to avoid. There was one deke, he's coming across the blue line, and one of the Pittsburgh defensemen, or one of the Pittsburgh defenders, steps forward on him, and he just cuts on like a dime and cuts between the two of them and goes in and creates a scoring chance. Like his I've said before that I don't think that his, straight line skating is necessarily spectacular, but certainly his ability to change direction and his ability to use his edges is beyond compare in the NHL already. So again, I don't think he had his best game, but I think that's sort of a statement about how good he's been in the first three games, is that I still think he's a member of the A-team despite not having one of his best games of the season. And the fourth guy I had a hard time picking my fourth member. It's Cole Caulfield, and the reason I picked him is just because I felt like his skating tonight looked better than I've ever seen it, or better than I've seen it in a long time, right? Caulfield is a shooter. Caulfield is a scorer, and we know that he can do those things, and, he didn't do that tonight. He didn't score a goal, but I found like just his, his get up and go and his speed and the, chasing down the play and, getting in the corners and chasing the puck and whatever. I just thought he had a real fire under his butt tonight. And so I think on the power play goal, I already mentioned that he, was hustling quite a bit on that, getting loose pucks and running around and so on. So from that perspective, I thought he had a really good game. Again, he didn't, for the first time this year, he didn't score a goal. I think he had 4 goals coming into tonight's game, but he didn't get one tonight. But again, I don't, you're not going to score every night. And sometimes when you don't have your scoring touch, sometimes you have to find other ways to contribute. And I think that Caulfield did that tonight. So he is the 4th member of my A-team tonight. So we have Mike Matheson, Nick Suzuki, Lane Hudson, and Cole Caulfield. So those are the 4 members of our A-team. And with that, that's pretty much it for the prepared portion of the show for the review. We are going to move to the comments. Guys, I see there's a few people in the chat. We'll take some questions. We have, I think, 6 people in, so that's pretty good. That's better certainly than our last live. Thank you, everybody, for coming. If you have any questions or comments, whether it's about the things that we've already talked about here, whether it's the A-team or whether it's the the report card, if you have questions about the report card, opinions about the report card or the A-team, if you have a guy that you think, was more deserving of being on the A-team than the guys I picked, then certainly let's talk about it, or anything else you want to talk about, the game, the Canadiens in general, or hockey specifically. So let's fire away. I don't know if there's any way for me to find out who is in the chat. There is. It looks like we've only got 2 people in the chat. I said 6, and it looks like it's just me and Hunter again. So Hunter, if you have any questions, you say you didn't see the whole game, but from what I saw, Hudson looked really good. Yeah, he did. But like I said, I think this is a commentary on how good he's been all through the year. That this probably was his worst game of the season, and despite that, he looked really, really good. I see we have a question from Noah Menard earlier. He suggests that we should send Barron to the AHL. Of course, Noah might not be aware that that can't really happen. In order for Barron to go to the AHL, he would have to clear waivers, which is not likely to happen, despite Noah's dislike for Justin Barron and his game. There certainly would be an NHL team that would pick Barron up on waivers if the Canadiens put him out there. So I don't think that is a reasonable opportunity for Montreal, or a reasonable option for Montreal. I don't disagree completely with the sentiment. I think if Barron were eligible to go to the AHL, I wouldn't be completely against it. However, he's not likely to clear waivers and make it to the American Hockey League. I thought Barron had a really, really weird game tonight. Barron's a weird player. Like, again, I don't mean that as an insult to him. His inconsistency is so inconsistent that he can literally be inconsistent within an individual shift, right? Like, he can make a really, really nice play, and then within that same shift, like, make a completely boneheaded play. Like, there were scenarios today where he actually looked quite good, and I know that even, the announcers on RDS were commenting about how he looked okay, but then there was one play where he basically fired a slap shot at Mike Matheson from about 15 feet away into his skates, in a place where there's no way in the world that Matheson could have ever received that pass. And as a result, Pittsburgh got, a wide open shot basically on a breakaway. It was just like, and there were other times tonight where Barron looked like he was as good as he ever is. And the thing with Barron is he's got a ton of skill. He's a great skater. He's got a great shot. I think he's a first-round draft pick. He has the ability to be very good. But for whatever reason, so far in his career, he has yet to be able to put everything together and become a guy who can go out and put in a regular shift and be a contributor on a regular basis. And a guy who you can trust. A guy who you can trust not to mess. Like, he just sometimes he just looks completely lost in his own end. Frank, good evening, Devin. This kind of brings me back to memories of last year's start of the season when they win one, lose one. They were getting worse by losing 3 to win one. Yeah, and again, I think I talked about it earlier, Frank. Perhaps before you were hanging out. this is kind of what you see from young hockey teams. Young teams are not consistent. They don't always bring it every night, and sometimes their effort is not there. And I think that when you see a team that starts to bring it every night and bring a consistent effort every night, that's when you start to see teams that are ready to compete for the Stanley Cup and make the playoffs. So here's my report card here, right? So you see the report card. We talk about the consistent effort and compete, and I don't think the Canadiens had that tonight. And that's a box that if you continue to come to the lives, that's a box you're going to want to see the Canadiens start to check off more often than not, if we're going to if this team is going to start transitioning towards being a playoff competitor, competitor, like a team that can make the playoffs. And again, it's not just about effort. It's about travel. It's about playing back-to-back nights. It's about playing on a Monday night, right? Some of these kids aren't used to playing on Monday nights. You don't play a lot of Monday night hockey in juniors. You don't play a lot of Monday night hockey in the NCAA, right? You don't play on Thanksgiving holiday very often when you're in those leagues. So when you get to the NHL, there's a lot of adjustment to be made, and that's kind of why I think that you like you're talking about, Frank. You win one, they lose one. They win one, they eventually. It's not so much that they win one and lose one. It's that they show up and look great one night, and then 2 nights later they don't really show up that much. Leafs looking to trade Timothy Liljegren. Habs interested possibly. I couldn't imagine that they would be, Hunter. I really couldn't imagine that the Canadiens would have any interest in Timothy Liljegren. I don't know that he would even be able to make this team right now, and he certainly would not be a guy who would fit in the plans as far as a rebuild is concerned. So I don't see Montreal being interested whatsoever in Timothy Liljegren. But isn't that Marty St. Louis' job to teach them? Yes, exactly his job, yes. But that doesn't mean that they're going to get it the first time, Frank. Right? It's not just Marty St. Louis' job. It's the entire organization's job, right? It's the veteran players' job. So it's the veteran players who need to, also teach these guys what it means to be professionals. It's the veteran players it's a progression. It's not something that just happens overnight. How do you teach a kid to play an 82 hockey game season, right? These guys are coming from junior leagues where they play a lot less. Well, not a lot less. They play, 70 games in junior, and the NCAA, they might play 40 or 50. So their lives are different. It's not just the hockey that's different. It's their lives, right? These guys are living on their own for the first time, right? They're not living in a dormitory where somebody's cooking their meals for them. They're making their own meals. They're living in their own places. They're paying their own rent. They're setting their own alarm in the morning. They don't have somebody who is keeping an eye on them. These are things that you learn as you become a professional. This is part of adapting to pro hockey. And yes, this is the coaching staff's job to teach them. It is the veteran players' job to teach them. It is the organization's job to teach them. But it's not something that just comes overnight, right? It's a progression, right? And when you have a team that hasn't, I think what's the average age of the Montreal Canadiens, like 26 or 27 years old? When you have a team that is made up of a lot of these guys, then there are days where the team's not going to look that great. They're going to struggle. But that's something that will improve. And you're right. It is the job of the coaching staff to do that. But again, it's not like teaching somebody how to take a one-timer. It's not like teaching somebody how to play, defensive zone coverage is a good example. That's not something you just learn overnight. Like, I teach you how to do it, and then the next day you're great at it. I thought Gallagher was good tonight. I thought Gallagher's been pretty good all season, Hunter. So Hunter's asking, what did I think of Gallagher tonight? He had a couple of good chances. There were a couple of really good shifts for that line. I think it was sort of towards the mid to late part of the second period. I thought Gallagher and Anderson did some. I don't know what's going on with Anderson. I've got no problem with Anderson's game. I feel like, he's playing his role quite well. He's skating well. He's hitting well. He's playing well on the penalty kill. He's doing, but for whatever reason, his hands appear to be non-existent. Like, he gets the puck and it's like he's wearing boxing gloves. Like, the puck just bounces off of his stick. He can't stick handle. I don't know what's going on with that. But no, Gallagher I thought played okay. I thought Gallagher finished last season really well, and I think he's brought that this year. He's had a couple goals already. He had a couple goals in the last game. I thought he had a couple good chances tonight. I think, he's slowed down. His skating's not the same as it was, and I don't think his shot is the same as it was. But those are the ankle injuries and the hand injuries that he suffered. But I thought he played well. I think he's continuing to play well. Matthew Nice had to adjust to, all young players have to adjust to that. And again, it's not just adjusting to the 82-game schedule. Like I said, it's adjusting to the lifestyle. These are kids. Right? And they're out on their own for the first time. They're 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids. And, they're doing kid stuff. And sometimes, maybe they're not getting the right, sleep that they need to get. And maybe they're not getting the right food that they need to get. And maybe, it sounds pretty basic and sort of non-hockey related, but that's the reality of all of it. I think they should start Primo next game to see how he does. The next game, I believe, is on Thursday. I think there's probably a chance that they would start Primo. I think that so far in the season, Montembeault, as early as we are in the season, I think that Montembeault has kind of shown that he's the starter. So I don't know that it's likely that they'll start Primo. I don't think that Montembeault played badly tonight to the point where you would want to say, let's try Primo. So I don't know. I know that Primo will likely get the starts when there's a back-to-back, like when they have games on back-to-back nights. I just don't know whether they'll go with Primo or whether they'll stick with Montembeault. I don't know what their plan is, so insofar as what they expect the split to be between Primo and Montembeault, like whether they think that, Primo's going to play, 25, 25 games this year, or whether it's going to be more like, 30 or 35 games. So I don't know what the ultimate plan is as far as that's concerned. I think so far Montembeault has kind of taken the starting job by the horns. And, if there is a plan for him to play, upwards of 50 games this year, then I don't know whether Thursday will be a Primo start or not. Anybody else? What's going on, guys? Is that it? It's just Frank and Hunter in here now, I think, unfortunately. I don't know why we can't. Everyone says they're going to show up. And then when it comes time to show up, they don't show up. So I know there was, 10 or 15 people in the TikTok live we did this afternoon that all said they were going to come to the Habs After Dark, but they're not here. So do you guys have any more questions? Hunter, Frank? If you do, I'm happy to answer them. If not, we might start shutting things down. It's after midnight here on the East Coast. All right, so I think Jeevan's here. Okay, Jeevan might have a question. Oilers and Canucks off to a rough start. Yes. I don't think it's anything really to worry about at this point. I think I might be a little bit more worried if I were the Canucks than if I were the Oilers. What's up, Ryan? Okay, now some people are coming in. Well, maybe we'll answer a few more questions, but again, we're sort of getting towards the end of the live here now, guys. Maybe next time if you are interested in coming in, we can show up a little bit earlier on and try and get part of the chat done then. I would be a little bit more concerned, I think, if I were the Canucks than if I were the Oilers. I think the Canucks, the Oilers have been here before. They struggled last year at the beginning of the year, and I think they have a team that probably can afford to I don't think they can afford to take some time off at the beginning of the season, but certainly more so than Vancouver can, especially if Vancouver is going to be, working without Demko for any significant amount of time. Again, I'd be more worried about that. Ryan, what's going on? Frank, Monty seems a little bit shaky on some goals tonight. But come on, Frank. Like, you can't possibly, like, the guy just went 2 games and let one goal in on like 80 shots. You can't jump on him because he let in a bad goal. Like, he's not going to be Ken Dryden every game of the year. He's not going to be Patrick Waugh. I don't necessarily agree with you that he looked shaky tonight. I don't think he did look shaky tonight. But even if he did, this expectation that some fans have for their players, that they're going to be like, Montembeau's a good goalie, but he's not an MVP candidate. Like, he's not going to have a 970 save percentage for the entire season. He's going to let in goals, right? He's not going to be a guy who lets in 1 goal every 2 games. Like, we can't just sort of, start saying, oh, well, we should try Primo, because like this, there's going to be bad games, whether it's, by individual players or whether it's by the team. Yeah, and again, defense, the defense let them out to dry lots of times tonight. Yeah, the defense wasn't good tonight, right? So again, I don't think it's any type of situation where we need to be panicking or whatever about Montembeau. I mean, it's kind of it's kind of wild to me that he hasn't earned at least some level of a benefit of the doubt based on the first 2 games of the season. I agree. We choked both leads. The games we still. Again, it's not. So, I wouldn't be worried about that so much, even. I mean, obviously, losing games that you were ahead in, is a problem. But again, Vancouver can't afford. Like, they're not a team that can afford to just sort of, moonwalk their way through the regular season. They're not there. Edmonton, you could argue maybe they can do that a little bit. They went to the Stanley Cup final last year. They're an experienced team. Like, Edmonton is a team that's on the precipice. Vancouver is a team that's still trying to get there, right? Vancouver is still on a learning curve. They're still, trying to become a team that can contend. And, if they continue to struggle, through the regular season, that's going to be a problem for them. Will Austin Matthews score 50? Probably. He probably will. I mean, I wouldn't be too concerned about him not scoring in the first 3 games of the year. I mean, I've said before that I believe there's an issue with Matthews' consistency of his production. But again, his production wasn't very consistent last year, and he scored 69 goals. So I don't think that, going 3 or 4 games without scoring a goal is going to stop him from scoring 50. I know it's too early to even worry about anything. It's 9:14 in Alberta. You're 3 hours ahead of me. I am. Yes, I am 3 hours ahead of you, Frank. Who do I think wins the Hart? I have the slightest clue, Jeevan. I wouldn't begin to try and guess who's going to win the Hart Trophy after 4 games in the regular season. I couldn't have a clue. And realistically, if anybody tells you that they have any idea, they're lying to you. I mean, that would just be pure guess. And, I could throw a name out there, and if I got it right, I could come back at the end of the season and brag about it. But at the end of the day, all I'm doing is guessing. Like, if I said Nathan McKinnon, it would just be a guess. If I said, Connor McDavid, it would just be a guess. If I said Quinn Hughes, it would, it's just a guess. Again, I'm not a big fan of playing the guessing game when it comes to stuff like that, because, I mean, at the end of the day, nobody really knows. Nobody really knows who's going to be that guy. So, all right, gang, is that going to be it? We have how many people in here right now? We've got Frank, Hunter, Jeevan, and Ryan. I think that's going to be just about it for tonight. Like I said, guys, if you want to get in on the questions next time, maybe try and show up a little bit earlier. Like I said, we go live about 15 minutes after the final horn. Then I do a bit of a talk or a chat or a review, whatever you want to call it, about the game and go through the goals, talk a little bit about some of the issues and things that I thought came up during the game. and then we do the A team, and we do the report card, and then we open things up to questions. And I'm more than willing to take questions for 20, 25 minutes, but we've been on for quite a while here now, so I think I'm going to shut things down unless anybody has anything else. My new format on YouTube is awesome. Keep up the good work. Well, I appreciate it, Frank. Thank you for saying so. I'm sort of getting my feet under me a little bit here. It's still not super easy and comfortable. I'm still learning how to use the OBS software. My graphics are not probably at a professional level just yet, but I'm working on it. I'm trying my best. And I'm glad that you guys, at least some of you, are enjoying it. Maybe you can spread the word and see if we can get a few more people in here next time. Thursday night is the next game, I believe, so we'll likely do this again. If you're not following us on TikTok, make sure you follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Discord. Recliner Sports is on Discord. And I also just started our online blog. So we're going to be doing some written content as well. That's going to be focusing a lot on the Montreal Canadiens, but not exclusively. Again, it's reclinersports.ca. If you want to go and see some news articles that we're going to be posting there, I'll be doing some written work and posting that at reclinersports.ca. I am on Twitter also as Recliner Sports, yes. So Twitter, Recliner Sports, TikTok, Recliner Sports, Instagram, I'm Recliner Sports, Discord, Recliner Sports, and now the new website, where we will be providing written content, again, largely focused on the Montreal Canadiens, but we'll be doing a little bit of everything, and I invite you to check that out as well. So thank you very much for those of you that are here. Specifically, I am going to mention Frank, Hunter, Jeevan, who are here now. I know there were a few others as well. Ryan, as specifically, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. We'll see you in the next one. Again, make sure you come by early next time for the review of the game. 15 minutes after the buzzer, last horn of the game, and we'll see you the next time on Habs After Dark. Peace out.